Welcome, everyone, to the Savvy Sales Lady Live. Thank you for being with me today. You could be doing anything, but you're here to learn a little bit more. I have a really fascinating story to tell you today. So let me get out my notes and we'll get right into it, okay? So, I love a good underdog story because for most of my life, I was the underdog. Have you ever experienced that yourself? You're going to want to stick around for this one till the end because it's really good. This underdog story is about a man who kept getting knocked down. He'd dust himself off and get back up, raring to go again. Well, today's story, this salesman faced more rejection in 1 year than most of us will see in our lifetime of selling. But here's the thing. He didn't just survive it. He turned it into a sales philosophy that would change everything. So grab your coffee or an adult beverage, whatever you prefer, settle in, and let me tell you about a young man who couldn't catch a break. And stay with me because I have 5 tips to share with you. All right, now picture this. It's early 1900s. A teenage boy quits school after 8th grade. Yeah. Not because he wanted to, because he had to. His family needed money, and school was a luxury they just couldn't afford. He would take odd jobs. Farmhand, streetcar conductor, soldier, insurance salesman. And let me tell you, everyone, he was terrible at most of those jobs. He got fired from job after job. At one point, he was so broke, so completely down on his luck, that he found himself living in his car. Kind of sounds like a Tony Robbins story, doesn't it? But this isn't about Tony Robbins. Now, most people would have given up. Most people would have said, Sales isn't for me. This just isn't working. I'm just not good at it. But not this guy, because somewhere in all that failure, he discovered something, a secret that would eventually make him one of the most successful salesmen in American history. So, what was his secret? Simple. Beautifully, powerfully simple. He learned that sales doesn't begin until the customer says no. Where most of us would accept that, he didn't. So think about that for a second. While everyone else heard no as a door slamming shut, he heard it as the conversation of just getting a conversation started. He didn't see rejection as failure. He saw it as information. What does this customer really need? He'd ask himself. What are they afraid of? He thought. What's really holding them back? He started keeping track. And you know what he discovered? On average, he had to hear no 5 times before he got a yes. 5 times. 5. 5 no's. Now, let me break this down for you because this is where it gets really practical. He didn't just say, oh, I just got rejected 5 times. No, he tracked it. He analyzed it. And here's the pattern he discovered. Are you ready for this? Here we go. He developed this 5 rejection rule. 5 rejection rule. So what is it? Well, the first no, that's usually a knee-jerk reaction. Now, we all know this. Not interested, too expensive, bad timing. It's almost automatic. The customer hasn't even really thought about it yet. The second no, now they're engaging a little. They have questions, concerns. They're comparing you to someone else or something else. This is actually progress, even though it feels like rejection. Would you put in the comments if you've ever had this kind of rejection or a second no like this? And while you're at it, would you put in the comments, because I see people are watching, would you put in the comments where you're watching from? I would love to know. Then the third no you get. Now they're stalling. Maybe they need to think about it. Maybe they need to talk about it to their spouse or their business partner. They're not saying never. They're saying not yet. The fourth no. Now, this is an interesting one. They're close, so close, but there's one last hesitation, one final objection, one more thing holding them back. And most salespeople give up right here. This is where they give up, right before the breakthrough. Then the fifth contact. This is where the magic happens. This is where all that persistence, all that value you've been providing, all those objections you've been addressing, it all comes together. This is where you get a yes. But here's the kicker. Here's what changed everything for this young man and what needs to change for us. Most salespeople quit after the first or second no. They assume the deal is dead. They move on. They never get to number 3, 4, or 5. But once you know this pattern exists, once you expect it, everything changes. You're not discouraged by that first no. You're just checking a box. You're moving through the process. You're one step closer to your yes. Now, here's where it gets good. This man didn't just use this knowledge for himself. He started teaching it. He created a training program. He wrote books. He developed an entire sales philosophy based on persistence, staying positive, and understanding that every no just moves you closer to the yes. He taught salespeople to expect rejection. That's the mindset twist. Not taking it personally. You know it's going to happen. So you plan for it. To know deep in their bones that someone said no the first time, that wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the real sale. And he was relentless about this mindset. He believed that sales wasn't about tricks or manipulation. I believe the same thing. It's not. It was about belief in your product, belief in yourself, and belief if you help enough people get what they wanted, you'd get everything you ever dreamed of. He also taught something crucial. This doesn't mean harassing people. So let me make that clear. You're not harassing people. It doesn't mean being pushy or annoying. It means following up with value each time, addressing different concerns with each touch, understanding the difference between persistence and pestering. You know what pestering looks like these days? Calling someone repeatedly and never leaving a voicemail. That's pestering. Each follow-up should bring something new to the table, a new insight, a solution to an objection, a testimonial, additional information they need. You're not just repeating yourself 5 times. And I see this in coaching so often where salespeople refuse to leave voice messages. And you need to. 5 different voice messages is what I teach. You're building a relationship, establishing trust, and demonstrating that you care enough to stay in the conversation. But here's another lesson on persistence that Frank teaches, and that is be persistent in seeking understanding. Be persistent in learning more about the needs of the prospect. Be persistent in your own learning about how sales mindset can turn the fear of rejection into seeking. So in the follow-up, you are seeking to understand. You're being persistent in learning more about the needs of the prospect. You're being persistent about in your own learning about how sales mindset can completely turn the fear of rejection into seeking. Now we're going to take a quick break. Stay with me. And right after this, I'm going to share more with you. If you like the Savvy Sales Lady Live, you're really going to like the Savvy Sales Lady newsletter. It's delivered in your inbox once a week. Why don't you go ahead and subscribe? The link is in the show notes below so you won't miss this upcoming newsletter. I give you one tip to focus on each week to implement immediately into your sales day. Why not sign up and learn just a little bit more? Okay, thank you for staying with me. I am back and let's continue. So I want you to think about your own sales journey for a minute. How many of you have heard no this week? I mean, if you've been on the phone, if you've been following up, if you've been in face-to-face meetings, you're going to hear a no, correct? How many have you heard no this month? How many times have you let that no stop you in your tracks? How many times have you heard a no and it took you 2 days to get over that no? And here's the real question. Where are you giving up? Are you quitting after the first no? Are you quitting after the second no? Are you stopping right at number 4? Right before the breakthrough? Have you even got to number 4? Because here's what this salesman understood that changed everything. That no isn't rejection. It's not your customer saying, I don't like you or your product is terrible. That no is just your customer's way of saying, I need more information, or I need more time, or I'm scared of making the wrong decision, or I don't fully understand yet. I have said no when I didn't fully understand what the person was trying to sell me. That happens way too often. What if your job as a sales professional wasn't to avoid the no, but to embrace it, to expect it, to prepare for it, to know with absolute certainty that it's coming and that it's actually a good sign because it means you're in the game? What if you started tracking your own numbers? What if you discovered that your magic number isn't 5? Maybe it's 3 or 7 or 6. What if you knew with data to back up exactly how many touches it takes for you to turn a prospect into a customer? Do you track it? I have tracked mine for decades. That's power. That's when you stop taking rejection personally and you start seeing it as part of your proven process. So, who was this persistent salesman who turned rejection into philosophy? Who took his own failures and transformed them into a training program that would influence millions of salespeople? Who was it? His name was Frank Bettger. But before he became one of America's highest paid salesmen and wrote the classic book, How I raised myself from failure to success in selling. Before all of that, he was just a broke guy living in his car who refused to quit. I should say. He was just a broke guy living in his car who refused to quit. Frank Bettger went on to train thousands of salespeople. His principles are still taught today, and sales programs are still taught all over the world. And it all started because he decided that no wasn't rejection. It was just research. And he had the data to prove it. Do you have your data? Now, as Paul Harvey would say, those of you that are old enough to know who Paul Harvey is, that's the rest of the story. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The difference between average salespeople and extraordinary ones isn't talent. It isn't charm. It isn't even product knowledge, though all of those help. The difference is persistence. The difference is understanding that every no is moving closer to a yes. The difference is knowing deep in your soul that when someone says, I'm not interested, what they're really saying to you is, you haven't shown me why I should be interested yet. So here's your homework. Start tracking. Count how many touches it takes to close a sale. Find your magic number. And then trust the process. The next time you hear no, and you will hear it, I want you to smile, because you're one step closer to your yes. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're in the game. And that, my savvy sales friends, is where all the magic happens. Now, thanks for being here today. I have one more slide to show you. Here's one tool you can immediately use that will help you. My Mindset Reset webinar replay. If you scan the QR code on the screen, it'll take you right to it. It's only $57. That's less commission than you'd leave on the table by not going after that next touch point. Your mindset is everything to start on your sales success journey. I'll see you on Tuesday for another free training, 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And until then, remember how I always end. Stay savvy.